Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be with you in just a second, okay? We're waiting on the attorney. I appreciate your patience. We're running a little behind, but just as soon as Attorney Brown and the administrator gets here, we'll be ready to get started. I hereby call this meeting back to order. Attorney Brown.
Mayor and Commissioners will request a motion to execute the closed meeting affidavit.
So moved.
There's a motion. I think I heard a second from the commissioner from the 9th, Commissioner Scott. Madam Clerk, voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Bobby Williams out.
Thank you, Attorney Brown. There are no motions from.
There are no motions, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, we now move into our special call meeting.
Yes, sir. Item number 3 is a motion to approve the concurrence with the Planning Commission to approve a petition requesting a special exception affecting property located at 1505 Aviation Way.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Franklin.
Motion approved.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, there's a motion and a second by the Commissioner from the 3rd. If there are no further discussions, voting.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Let's proceed.
Item number 4 is to consider approving the appointment of the following positions on the 2023 Augusta Emergency Management Subcommittee: Administrator, General Counsel, Fire Chief, and Director of Augusta's E911, and representatives from the healthcare community.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we vote on this, I just think that as far as chair and whatnot ought to be determined by this committee. I also think that the meetings ought to be in an open forum as well, where the public's invited. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to add to this this list of committee members the procurement director. And I want to also just make the recommendation that the administrator chairs it. It may not need to be in the motion, but I want to make the recommendation that the administrator chairs this committee, but most definitely adding procurement to the committee.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 1st. There's a couple of people in the medical community that's also expressed an interest in being a part of this committee. One is Lily Henson, who's the new CEO of Piedmont Healthcare System. Her name is Dr. Lily Henson. There is another, her name is Dr. Abel. She's an EMS physician with AU Medical Center. And for the clarity, I want to make sure I get her name correct. Dr. Abel's number, and we did call her today, asking her if she was still interested in serving, and she did. Her name is Becky Abel, that's A-B-E-L-L, and she is an EMS physician with Augusta University Medical Center. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
are these medical providers, are they sitting on as advisory members, as they are not part of Augusta's staff?
I would imagine they are serving as advisory members to this committee to provide their input and expertise from the medical community. Thank you. Chair now recognizes the Commissioner from the 5th, Commissioner Williams.
Yes, sir. Mr. Garrett, I think the people that the mayor mentioned, is that enough hospital, or do we need more hospital people? Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Brandon Garrett?
Is that enough?
Can you list again, Dr. Abel?
Yeah, so Dr. Abel is with the Augusta University Medical Center, and Dr. Lily Henson is the CEO of Piedmont Healthcare System.
Should we have somebody from doctors also
I
represented?
think it'd be prudent if we could.
Somebody from doctors. And also, we have to make sure they have to be Augusta residents. Am I right, Mr. Brown, attorney?
No.
Actually, in an advisory capacity, that wouldn't be any residential residency requirements.
Okay. I'm in agreement with what everybody said so far. And add the person from Doctors Hospital.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 7th, Commissioner Frandom.
Motion to approve as stated.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, there's a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor.
There's a discussion. Commissioner from the first.
Just want to get it restated,
All right.
because we added a few things.
The motion is to approve appointing the following positions on the 2023 Augusta Emergency Management Subcommittee: the Administrator, General Counsel, Fire Chief, the Director of 911, CEO of the Piedmont Medical Center, Augusta University Medical Center, Dr. Abel, and members from doctors. And these will be at advisory positions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And the meeting's going to be open to the public? Was that part of
I don't know.
Can we get a determination from legal on that one
Yeah.
before we make that decision? I understand the premise, but I want to make sure that we don't get ourselves in any mess.
That would be the will of the commission. I mean,
Are there any abstentions to make?
Whatever the will of the commission would be, whether that's a public subcommittee, or even though normally I will say that negotiating committee is treated as a staff function to which the public would not be in, neither the public nor the commission would be entitled to be present.
All right, Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and that is a concern. I'll never advocate for the community not to be involved in things of this nature, because the community should be. But I think that in meetings like this where our staff is deliberating, I don't know if having it in that type of forum is going to be helpful to the conversation. I mean, certainly if any of us would like to attend, I'm not sure if that's, if anything would stop that, but I don't understand the premise of the ask. I mean, when our staff is going to the table to really fight on behalf of the citizens of Augusta, I think that they should have the full autonomy to do that without commissioners or subgroups, anyone breathing down their neck. So I would caution against the open forum, although, again, it's the will of the commission. But I just wanted to get a little clarity on what the intent there is.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think the intent would be initially, while we start the process, that we keep it open to the public, but certainly once contract negotiations begin, that should be a closed process. I think having our medical professionals and our medical community involved in the input and the information being relayed from both sides is a benefit to the city as a whole. But you're right and correct in that once the negotiations begin, that process should be done with the committee that represents Augusta Richmond County.
Would the negotiations not be what this group is going to the table to do originally?
I think this group is probably going to the table to understand what information is needed by Central EMS, as well as trying to understand the needs of the community from a number of ambulance perspectives, understand the needs once they arrive at our medical facilities. How can we best get them away from there instead of wasting time there? So I would imagine there should be some discussion initially about how we build a program. And then from that point, once we've done that, I think the discussions will get a little bit more specific as regarding cost.
Okay, just one last question. I'm done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So just for my personal clarity, so the negotiations will be done by a different committee, or would this committee still be doing the negotiations?
It's my understanding this committee will continue to do the negotiations. I think the medical professionals are needed just to provide some input as to how we build a program that benefits the city. Once we get to specific terms on contractual terms, I think that's a decision that should be made by the city.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Chair recognizes the commissioner from the third.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I believe that what we've been through in the past, that it is very important for us to be transparent and to allow the citizens of Augusta and have the community be able to have this open and have them be able to come in and listen. That's my stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner from the fifth.
Yes, sir. I see Mr. Coker in the back. Can we have him come up and give us the purpose of his committee?
Thank you, sir.
And the second thing, since we've got this back and forth about should it be public or not public or whatever, I think that should be put in the form of a motion.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We'll entertain that motion just as soon as Mr. Coker addresses us. If you will, sir, for the record, please state your name and address.
Sure. Gary Coker, Marble Hill, Georgia. I'm the president of Central EMS. Mr. Mayor and commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. So, Mayor, did you have a question for me, sir?
No, sir, I didn't.
I did.
I'm sorry.
You know, we're
Yes.
going back and forth. What's the purpose of your committee? Can you tell us what's the purpose of your committee?
Yes, sir. Number one, as your provider going forward, we need to be able to develop a system that's going to work for you. As I've said before, I think your system currently is broken, and together, let's sit down and build a system that will work. In order to do that, we're going to need the help. We're going to need the help that you've given us this committee to work with. It seems to me that that's a very talented committee that actually has people that understand ambulance and EMS systems, and they should be able to come to some good decisions. So we're going to need to get the information that says things like this. What do you think the response time should be for your community? What do you think your citizens would want? What do you want? What number of ambulances will that take in order to provide that? What type of system do you want? Do you want an all-paramedic system? Do you want it blended to be paramedic and ambulance EMT? Or do you want the quick response vehicles with paramedics that can go out into the field and assist? A lot of specific things that are criteria that private ambulance service and public ambulance service both work to aspire. And we're going to put a private-public together. We need to have this data so we can decide what type of system you want built, number one. Number two, then we'll come in and say, all right, here are the costs for this. Those will be completely transparent, almost like your county budget, line item by line item by line item, for everybody to see this is what it costs to build the system. And then, of course, the question that I'm asked 24 times, what is the cost, right? Once we get these laid out on the table by your committee, we will then develop the cost and say, here is the cost that it's going to be. And we want the cost to be where the government gets the best that they can for the dollars they spend, for the citizens' dollars, and so that the company can maintain and be profitable so that it will be here next year and the next. That's what we need, sir.
Got it. So my just surmising what you were saying is that will be where you build consensus as to what we want, but that won't necessarily be where the full negotiating will be. That'll be with procurement and or whatever we deem necessary, correct?
We will negotiate with whoever you tell us to negotiate with. You'd be in the government, assign someone to negotiate with us, and then that's when we will negotiate with full transparency. As
Thank you.
you had said.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number one, this should absolutely be open. The history of what's happened with this issue is the reason that I'm so adamant about it, and just think it's the right thing to do. The second piece is I would hope that this committee, with the fact that we're on a May 8th deadline, would be able to do the entire thing. We've already talked about how only our staff would be able to vote, or whatever that is, but there's not really time to kick the can down the road to make sure that this group isn't having the full discussion on what it's going to take for the ambulance service and to get it in a contract with Central. So I'm in support. Hopefully, if the motion is to open, I'm ready to vote. If it's to close, I'm going to make a substitute motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have clarity now. I was under the impression that this committee was going to be doing the negotiations. But if this is just a meeting to where we're just having a conversation as to what is it going to take to get us to negotiations, I don't have a problem with the meeting being open. I just want to make sure that when we get into negotiations that we're out of the equation, and that y'all don't have the press and just folks down your throat, down your neck, you know what I mean? So with that being said, I mean, my concern has been addressed properly, and I don't have an issue with this meeting being open.
Thank you, Commissioner. So with that being said, Madam Clerk, do we need to entertain a motion to have this open, or are we clear as a body?
Well, if you're adding it to the motion with no objection, we can do it without a separate motion.
All right. So are there any objections to making this process open on the dais? All right. So it's unanimous consent,
Okay, it's
Madam Clerk.
added
Okay.
to the motion.
All right, so we have a motion. Well, we don't have a motion. Well, we do
Motion
have
to
a motion.
approve.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk,
What are we
voting.
doing?
We already did it? All right, let's go. All right,
No.
total loss here. All right. Is that it for a special call?
Just call for the vote, sir.
All right.
We're voting.
All right, we're voting. Yes, ma'am.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, these proceedings are now closed, and I guess we're prepared to move forward with the committee part of our agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call public services to order. I will say that we do have an addition to the agenda item. If we can we put that up on the screen? There was some debate on how it got here and whatnot, but just to let y'all know, we really have to stop this moving forward, as we got to make sure the public is notified of different items that are on there. If there's no questions from the colleagues, do y'all consent to adding the agenda item that you were given? No. Okay. There is consent. We're good. All right. If there's no questions from the body, I'd like to consent agenda items 3, 4, and 6. 3, 4, and 6. Is there any questions on any of those three? I'd also like to add the agenda item that's on the screen. Is there any questions to that agenda item? So we're going to consent the addendum on the screen, 3, 4, and 6. Can I get a motion to that effect, please? Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please. Revote. Got to hit it again.
Yes, sir?
All right, Ms. Bonner, agenda item number 1, please.
Ms. Walton? Or,
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Our first item is a new location, alcohol number 23-10. It's a request by James Edward Miller for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Circle K Stores Incorporation, number 2707036, located at 1600 Barton Chapel Road. This application has been approved by the Sheriff's Office and Planning and Development. Do we have any objectors to this alcohol petition?
None noted. Please state your name and address for the record.
James Miller, 4359 White Pine Court, Augusta 30906.
Commissioner Guilfoyle.
I would so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
it's unanimous.
Agenda item number 2.
This item is a new ownership, existing location, alcohol number 23-11, a request by Pratik J. Patel for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Country Corner 11, located at 4630 Mike Paget Highway. This application has been approved by the Sheriff's Office and Planning and Development. Do we have any objectors to this alcohol petition?
None noted. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Pratik Patel, 455 Spectrum Road, Somerville, South Carolina, 29486.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Can I got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, please.
Item 5, discuss maintenance and repair of the boathouse.
This is a commission agenda item, not requested by Commissioner Pulliam, just for clarity. Commissioner Guilfoyle, you want to start us off?
Yes, sir. This was brought forward from the last committee meeting. I was wondering if the Attorney Brown had time to reread the contract that was presented to us, and did he have a change of heart or anything? Who's responsible?
Attorney Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. Attorney Brown, would you like me to go first?
Yes, sir, if you have a comment or question.
Absolutely. If you go to page 2 of the lease that was set forth on July 17, 96 between Augusta and the Augusta Rowing Club, if you go to page 2, it shows the building. The leasee shall renovate the building on the leased premise.
Commissioner, hold on just a second. She's going to
Okay.
share some documents with us.
All right.
Let me share the lease that you're referencing with the commission.
Okay, proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Brown, are you on page 2 of the contract?
Trying to get there, sir.
Okay.
And is there a representative from the rowing club that wants to speak today? Okay, if you want to get over here.
They don't have anybody? I know somebody.
You can give us just a second, sir. Sir, you can just give us, you can have a seat and just give us just a second. Let's finish.
Committee Chairman, this
Yes,
is
sir.
Samuel Meller, Senior Staff Attorney with the Law Department, to answer questions regarding the contract.
Okay, Commissioner Guilfoyle.
Well, actually, Mr. Miller, Mr. Brown was speaking about it 2 weeks ago in regards who was responsible. I actually went through this lease contract between Augusta and the Augusta Rowing Club. Did you have a chance to look at it, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did, sir.
Let's go ahead and follow up together then. Under page 2, section C, building. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. The leasee shall renovate the building on the leased premises. That's a defined area, leased premises. Would you agree with that? To the house of the Augusta Rowing Club and its related programs in accordance with the plans, drawing specifications prepared by Virgo and Gamble, dated 31st of May of 96, and with the revision that they would put in $150,000 towards the cost of renovating the portion of the premises described on Exhibit B. Well, let's move over to page 19 where it shows Exhibit B. Tell me when you're ready, Mr. Miller.
I'm ready.
All right, Exhibit B, the entire ground level of the facility, the bar area on the second floor of the facility, and the parking lot downstream from the facility, all be described on the copy of the plans to be attached here too. Would you agree with that?
So to your question as to, the documents speak to themselves. To your question as to the lease premises is the entire 1.182 acres.
It defines it as level, the first level, and the bar area on the second floor.
Paragraph 1 of the lease defines it as paragraph 1 of the lease is all that tract or parcel of land together with the improvements thereon containing 1.182 acres.
Let's go to repairs then. Section 8, page 7. Repairs by leasee. The leasee expressly agrees to repair at its own expense any damage to water, steam pipes, or other improvements of fixtures located on the leased premises. That's a defined area, again, Mr. Miller, caused by freezing or other negligence of the leasee. The leasee will also repair keep open and clear all water and sewage lines and pipes. Now, the damage came from the freezing temperatures from the sprinkler system, which is not in a defined area, or the kitchen from the pipes, which is not in a defined area. Does not include the deck, it does not include the roof, it does not include the gutters, etc. And by what was just given to us on this boathouse repairs and renovation at a tune of $5.1 to $5.8 million, that has nothing to do with the leased premises of ground floor, first floor, or the bar area.
We understand the leased premises to be all improvements of the entire parcel of the 1.182 acres.
Do we need to use a outside attorney that deals with real estate contracts? Because it defines it, and actually Mr. Fletcher was the attorney for the Augusta Rowing Club at the time, and I don't think he's just going to put something in there by using words without it having a meaning behind it. We're trying to paint a picture and holding somebody responsible that's not responsible. Now, if it's their fault, I'll be the first one to say it. But it shows a defined area in this contract, defined lease space in this contract, defined area that the repairs should be made that they would be responsible for. It doesn't say to include the entire building. If it did, it would state it here in black and white on July 1996.
We understand that that's what the lease agreement says.
Who is we?
So it's our initial, it's our reading of the lease, and so
Yeah, this is. I guess not. I don't understand it. This, but.
Where was he reading that page to? He should have renovated. I believe the lease premises. That's what he owns. What was he reading about the lease premises?
Mr. Brown,
Attorney Brown.
while you consulting Mr. Miller, would you go ahead and look at section 17 where it defines the lease premise under the exclusive possession and maintenance, where it says defined area, as well as page 14, section 28, repairs of the lesser.
What was the latter site?
I'm sorry.
What was your latter site? Page 14.
It defines it as the leased premises. Section 17, page 11.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move this along.
Thank you.
And give y'all, I think that we're over here. I'd like to hear from the rowing club. It's obviously.
Can we hear from the Augusta Rowing Club, sir?
That's what I just said. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Brad Holdren, 1617 Georgia Avenue, North Augusta, South Carolina.
Great. I'd love to just hear kind of your thoughts, your perspective on what's been going on, and kind of then.
We want our rowing club back. It was not our fault that the damage occurred, and we would like to get the area cleaned up and get back to functioning as we have. We understand that the lease is interesting. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand it.
Me neither.
So, Yeah, we would like to get our rowing club cleaned up and get back in action full time.
Okay. Director McDowell, can you come forward and ask you a question? I thought that we were kind of helping in this regards. I'll go to, is that what you're going to? Okay. Director McDowell, if you can, because I thought we were moving this in a positive light. Can you speak to where we are with the rowing club, the lease? Kind of, I thought we were, when we had this conversation a month ago, we were in the right, moving it forward. So what's going on?
When you say speak to the lease agreement?
Well, can you speak to, like, I thought we were going to help them with bathrooms. I thought we were going to, like, help, like, they saying it's not clean. Like, where are we, I guess?
The help with you want to speak to it, but the help with the restrooms and all that, we are taking care of. Parks and Recreation are doing what we said we were going to do as it relates to assisting the rowing club, and I think they would echo those same sentiments. As it relates to the lease, that's been between legal trying to sort those things out. So we haven't had any conversation in regards to the lease itself.
Administrator.
Commissioner Frankton, one of the tasks from this body was to have the Central Services Director present you all with some cost estimates. So I would like for him to speak to those details that he's provided you with today. There are varying levels of need at this facility, and I want to make certain that this body understands exactly what is needed, because everything is not needed at one time.
Thank you. Director Lampkin.
Good afternoon. As you can see before you with the boathouse renovations and repairs, the first list shows what we've done to make those repairs when those pipes burst. So we're about a little over $20,000 in on those repairs, and that means all that has been done already. We have repaired all the pipes that burst inside and out. Secondly, we have our cleanup and restoration that still needs to be done. That we haven't got to. And what that shows is, and right now, the reason why you see a variation in between where it says 300 to 700,000 is because we're not sure exactly how much damage has been done. We have had some people go in and we have moisture damage, which also includes some mold remediation that needs to be done, and as of right now, they're saying the mold has, they believe, start growing under the floors and inside the walls, which means that the floors will have to be torn out and some of the walls will have to be ripped out to get that done on the inside. Going down further where it says repairs needed so we can occupy the building, the first thing I put on the list, which is cost estimates, we got around $2 million, is for all the decking and the pillars and pylons outside. The decking around the building has been worn, of course, because it's wood. And so all that price of the $2 million includes the demo and replacing of all the deck boards, the picket handrail, the sister joints, the fascia, the metal, the mechanical platforms, which houses the HVAC, and then the front stair entrance and the stairs to the west end of the building.
Are we at a point where, without doing the interior of the building, that it's a safety issue of people coming in that building now?
It's definitely a safety issue. That's why the building has been closed to the public for the last 4 years, because you cannot walk around that building on that decking or use those steps. Even sending staff down there along with contractors, you have to watch where you're stepping at. So that $2 million definitely has to be spent so we can get all the outside work done, which is what we have to do anyway, because the HVAC units that's there, we're replacing as part of the train contract, and as part of that contract, we cannot put the new unit in because the deck won't hold it. So we have to get that decking done just to even get the HVAC put in.
Okay, well, I've got some questions up here. Commissioner Johnson.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarity, this is just for repairs. This $5 million to $5.8 million. This isn't to completely rebuild it. This is just to repair the
Basically, that's what you'll get with the full $5 million. So if you go down, it also describes what needs to be done to the interior of the building, which this will include the full remodel of the kitchen, which was basically pretty much destroyed during the water damage, because that's where the pipes burst at. And then you have a renovation of the bathroom, new flooring, paint, and also the full $5 million will take care of everything we need to be up and operational.
And you wouldn't have to demo for that. You could just go
No, yeah, you don't have to tear the whole thing down to start. We'll just do what needs to be done, which will demo the outside, replace all the deck and the steps, And then on the inside, we'll redo all the bathrooms, the kitchen, the flooring, and then any paint or any cosmetic work that needs to be done.
And what would be the potential timeline on making these repairs? To say in a perfect world, we started next week. How long would it take from then to get this done?
Now that I couldn't say because,
and again,
like
in a
I said,
perfect world,
we dealing with repairs that need to be made inside the water. So you're gonna have somebody come in and dam the water off so they can change everything that needs to be done underneath. And that, like I said, that depends on the contractor, which then you still have to go through procurement process for that. So we'll bid it out. The one thing that we do need to do right away, which is an emergency, is get those cleanup and restoration done, because as long as it sits, then it's gonna get worse.
So even with the cleanup and restoration portion here, that still wouldn't make it feasible for the rowing club to use.
No, because you still wouldn't be able to walk. Well, they would be able to use the bottom portion because they don't have to use the steps or the decking to get in. So if we got that done, that would make the building livable. Right now, the building is not livable.
And final question, Mr. Chairman. With this, could this be deemed an emergency to make the process go by faster if we were able to find the funding to make it happen? Okay.
Yes, is that a yes?
Yeah.
I was waiting for the chair to direct it to me.
I saw you nodding.
Yes, we can deem it as an emergency, and if this body is trending in that direction, I would like to ask for the procurement department to work with the Central Services Department on putting out a bid in an emergency fashion for us to get back estimates with the hopes to be able to present those to you during the combined committee commission meeting on March 29th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bobby Wood.
Well, that was going to be my motion. Is that good enough, or do I need to still put it in the motion that some folks need to get together and give us some bids?
If that's your motion, if the commission will accept that and take it from that standpoint, I don't see a problem with it.
Well, I make a motion that they go out and get some bids. You said you wanted
funding source?
Once we receive quotes as to how much this will cost, then I'll present you with recommendations for funding.
All right, so that's my motion.
Okay.
Nobody want to second my motion?
If you give me a second,
Commissioner
I'll probably
Guilfoyle. There's still some questions.
Yes, sir. Do I have the floor, sir?
Yes, sir.
Great. You know, we're looking at this $6 million renovation it'll be topping out at. Will it be better, Mr. Lampkin, just to, one, we're going to have to make sure we provide an area for the rowing club to store and utilize a building. With all this renovation going on, it's going to cause I don't know if they could utilize the area. And as a matter of fact, the leased area that they have, how many square feet is it? What's the square footage of the bottom floor?
I'm not sure of.
The reason why I'm saying is, you know, we're looking at $6 million in renovation sitting on an old set of bones. Would it be better to demo what we do have there? Are we going to utilize it for a restaurant here in the future? We're going to have to look at our goal for that building. That's a lot of money. That was a lot of money initially, what the city put in, as well as Mr. Cunningham at the time. But one thing we do to make a priority, I believe that's what Mr. Williams said a couple of weeks ago, we're going to have to find refuge, a place for the Augusta Rowing Club to use. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, Mr. Lampkin?
For me, and what I would suggest is that we need funding now to get the cleanup and restoration done. And once we get that done, we can be able to at least occupy the building, at least from their side. And then that'll keep any mold or anything else from growing in the building. So I can get somebody in there to do that cleanup, but we're going to need the funding for that first. Everything else below that, as far as the exterior decking in the building and the interior of the building, then we can determine how we want to move as far as the bid process when it comes to that. But right now, we need to kind of, in other words, stop the bleeding.
Does the River Keepers have a building right down the road from it? A warehouse that we could use? Does anybody know?
The River Keeper does have a building right down the road, yes. However, Parks and Recreation, did you not communicate some immediate housing options for the rowing club a couple of weeks ago? And if so, can you revisit those today?
We talked with the rowing club because our approach to it was to have a conversation with them so they can express to us their needs. That particular facility is not conducive to their needs, plus it's in dire need of some renovations as well. So if this is going to be a long-term project, then we'll have to work with the rowing club for them to identify. We've talked about some temporary storage on the site that we may have to incur that cost as well. It just depends on what this body give us instructions to do. But currently, there's no facility that we have. They need to be close to the river. So if we're going to do something at that particular site, it may be a temporary structure. But
like containers, shipping containers, et cetera?
Right. We'll just have to figure out how to absorb that cost because we don't have anything currently budgeted to do that. But again, we were relying on the rowing club to give us all the information they needed to make certain that we give them an appropriate facility if we're going to move forward with any type of extensive renovation to that facility.
Right. This, for storage use only, I think they $2,700 to $3,200 per shipping container you drop off, and we could utilize them when we get done. We could turn around and sell it instead of versus renting. That might be a option. But let's, Mr. Williams, what was your motion? But I would like to see if you would add, let's make sure we try to take care of the rowing club, provide them some kind of.
I don't have a problem with that. I just think that
It's in the mic.
we're going back and forth. Either we are or we aren't. Either we're going to fix up the boathouse or we're not. Either we're going to commit the money or we're not. So I asked if they would go out for bids. As far as taking care of the rowing club, that was my intention weeks ago.
That's right.
They came forward and said they really didn't need much of anything. I don't know what they need. Now, we got some folks out there. Raise your hand, rowing club. There you go, right there. We got a whole bunch of folks in here today. We just need to know what they need. The guy here a couple of weeks ago said they didn't need much of anything other than what Maurice McDowell said he could provide for them. I don't know if we need a tent or aluminum house or something where they can put their, what do you call it, rowing something or whatever have you.
You just stop.
I don't know. I never did row.
Brad, can you speak to the needs and the understanding of what your expectation was from this government?
Yes, the confusion came with our needs change with definitions. What does temporary mean? Are we talking 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years? Each one of those definitions changes what our needs are. If we can operate out of the lower floor of the boathouse with cleanup and getting the water turned back on and the pipes repaired and the electric repaired, we can function out of the bottom of the boathouse just fine while the rest of this gets determined. When it does come time to do the major construction, if our equipment needs to be stored, we can pull it out, put it in fenced-in areas as long as we're part of the conversation for that construction. If the building gets raised and rebuilt, then we'll have other storage needs, and it will all be pending the amount of time required. So that's why the confusion. You know, our needs for 2 weeks are different than our needs for 2 years.
Well, our immediate thought was to, I think you said you had a rowing regatta or whatever it is that you have in November, I think.
Yep, November 11th this year.
Okay, so that was what we were talking about before.
Yep.
So I'm willing to put in my motion to go out for bids and take care of the needs of the rowing club, whatever that may be, to be determined by Mr. McDowell and Mr. Holdred.
I'll second that. Thank you, Mr.
We
Williams.
kind of did. Let me ask you this. About a month ago, we talked about bathrooms, and we were going to provide bathrooms. Did we provide the bathrooms?
Porta Johns are out there.
We provided them.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Garrett.
You just asked my question. I was going to make sure that the bathroom situation was taken care of because on one hand we heard that the bathrooms worked, but I also know that there's portalets out there. So
we're using portalets because the water that was turned back onto the building was only for the fire suppression system. The main water line has not been turned on yet. We still don't know if there's leaks in that. That hasn't been turned on since Christmas.
Okay. Commissioner,
Wait.
go ahead. Sorry.
So with that, we haven't turned the water back on because we need to get the restoration cleanup done. And so until we do that, we can't get the water back on. And like I said, if we can approve funding to get the restoration work done, then they wouldn't have to move the boats out of the storage area because we can then occupy that area. So
So do the bathrooms work or not?
they work. We just can't turn. I mean, we got the water off because we don't need any more moisture in the building until we can get this rectified.
Okay. And in regards to communication between the rowing club and the city, is that going okay?
Yes.
Brad, are you okay with?
Yeah, I just.
Speak now.
All right.
Okay, let me say this. So when she goes out for bids and brings them back, you know, we can choose to do the whole thing or pick and choose whether or not we're gonna do bathrooms or whatever in immediate action or what have you. So let's just.
All right, Commissioner McKnight, wrap us up.
Okay, I'll wrap you up real quick. All right, we've been this was on the agenda well over a year ago, and I'm just going to say it and put it out there. We've been talking about the boathouse. So I see today Administrator Dowse shaking her head that we got the funds today. So we're going to not bring this up next year, and we're going to get the work done pretty quick, correct?
Well, Commissioner McKnight, as I stated, when the bids come in, I will provide you with some recommendations. Please know ahead of time that those recommendations will most likely include a variety of sources to include the remaining funds that you have in ARP as well as SPLOST funds and possibly even into your capital or reserves. So do know that because this project was not budgeted in the 2023 fiscal year, that there will be other concessions made to fund this project.
But my question is, at the end of the day, the work is going to get done finally, correct?
Upon this body's approval.
Okay, that's all right. That's what we're going to go ahead and make a motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bonner, could you read the motion again for clarity?
The motion is to refer this matter to the administrator to procure estimates and bids regarding the needs of the rowing club and cost estimates and report back to the commission a recommendation for funding.
All right. We got a motion, a second. Voting committee.
Hang on a minute.
Now you're punting?
Yeah, hang on a minute. God, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I was just talking to Mr. Lamke. And yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Come on, man.
He explain that to me again so they all can hear, sir. He said he needs some money today.
Right.
So you need to explain. I can beat him up in the back room, but I can't do that out here. You got to.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, come on.
So what I'm asking for today, and the remediation and the restoration work needs to be done now. So I need some funding approved today to have this done so we can keep the rowing club able to house their stuff there and be able to use the building. The rest of the things we can get with procurement on and get a bid process started for the decking and the rest of the work that needs to be done. But the mold remediation, the rest of it needs to be done immediately.
Let me
Okay, so you want to change your motion?
I want to ask a question. Mr. McDowell, yeah, pull your pants up, tighten up your belt.
I know you about to ask for some money. So.
I am. But if we need to do something immediately, I think you said you had about 600,000.
580 is what Parks and Recreation have remaining. That's been allocated through SPLOST 7 for the boathouse.
Okay, so either we need to do two or one motion that has all these parts in it. I'm going to change my motion. Y'all can beat me up. I want to change the motion to allocate $500,000 from Mr. McDowell's account. In the meantime, we want to go out for bids, and we need to take care of the rowing club, whatever their needs are. I expect you to second that, Mr. Guilfoyle.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second.
But let me ask you a question.
Commissioner
Let me
Guilfoyle.
interrupt for
Yes,
one.
sir. Yes, sir.
You're going to take $500,000 out of his department?
Well, it's already been dedicated to the boathouse.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be SPLOST 7 funds.
Okay.
You can take
Administrator.
you can take the entire 580,
Yeah.
and I'll be fine with that because if it's going towards the boathouse, he has an estimate here between $300,000 and $700,000. So we'll just utilize that allocation, and if he needs some additional, then he have to come back before you all. But there's no point in leaving the $80,000 there if it's all budgeted for the boathouse.
All right, Commissioner Williams.
Administrator.
Go ahead, Administrator.
Commissioners, while I understand your urgency, please note that Mr. Lampkin has received this quote from one vendor. Also note that because today is a committee meeting, that no action could be taken in accordance with Augusta's
That's right.
procedures. So because of that, I just spoke with both the Central Services Director and the Procurement Director, and we can obtain additional quotes for the remediation of services that's needed and present that information to you next week. Is that confirmed?
Yes.
So Mr. Lampkin just said next week. With that, we will at least have competitive bids from more than one vendor as well as a price, and that is for the mold remediation only. We will still move forward with getting bids from other vendors surrounding the other laundry list of services that's needed from a construction and rehabilitation standpoint.
Gotcha.
Keeping it 500,000.
Okay, 500,000, that's
Need that
good.
80 for a roof.
And still going out for bids, and you can just take the 500,000 and use it on whatever bid that we get that's needed, and still taking care of the rowing people.
Okay.
So that's my motion, seconded by Mr. Guilfoyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Voting, please.
Thank you, folks.
It's unanimous.
Thank you, Rowan Club, for being here. That concludes public services.
Okay, with that being said, I'd like to call public safety to order. Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any additions or deletions?
No.
Okay. If there aren't any questions, I'd like to consider items 1 through 5.
So moved.
May I get a second?
I got a question.
Okay.
But doesn't the sheriff have his own budget to buy ammunition?
Let me go ahead and let Administrator Dowse. Go
Sure,
ahead.
he does, Commissioner, and as stated in his description, these funds are coming out of his budget that's already been allocated. So
Okay.
he's not requesting additional funding.
Okay, well,
Okay.
go ahead and do whatever.
Okay, so, all right, we got a motion and looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Let's vote, please.
One through 5.
See, who are we waiting on? Commissioner from the 5th?
I already did.
Okay,
The 4th?
He's not.
Oh,
He's
not-
out.
He's out.
That motion carries with Mr. Mason out.
okay. Item number 6, Commissioner Williams, we discussed earlier. Do you want to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to discuss, because I was going to do the, talk about the committee, but now I think is Miss Jerry Sams out there? Come on up here, Miss
She's-
Sams. We've got the EMS service, and we need a contract and what have you. And I just wanted to be clear because sometimes we get a little mixed up and people start throwing around emails and what have you. I just wanted to be clear that our procurement department is the department that's ultimately going to do our contract with our EMS service. And I just want to be clear about that. Is there any debate about that or anything? Any debate? So procurement is where we're going to do our contract. Okay, Ms. Sams, anything you need to say?
Sir?
Good. So I just wanted understood that, sometimes, we get in an email frenzy and send around emails about people who doing things that they should do or shouldn't do, and then it gets in the media that somebody's doing something and they didn't have authorization or what have you. So with my EMS, what have you, I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that our procurement department was in charge of ultimately doing our contract with our new EMS service, and that's all I had.
All right. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Commissioner from District 10.
Mr. Williams, you were speaking about having the procurement handle the contract. Wouldn't that be a legal? Legal be handling the contract, or?
I think
because the procurement would actually be on the procure side of it.
Well, they would be the ones who come back up here, Mr. Sam. But you would procurement being clear. You guys would be the ones who negotiate. It would eventually go through legal to make sure that everybody's represented well or legally or what have you. But ultimately, the numbers will come from procurement, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Ms. Sams?
If I'm understanding this correctly, there will be a committee. Out of that committee will be an understanding of what the
ask is,
and the procurement department will do nothing more than gather that information, put that contract together as required by the state, and turn it over to the legal department for review. And after the legal department reviews it, it would then be approved by you, the commissioners.
Okay. Is that what you're saying? All right.
All right.
We're good. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else in the queue? Okay. Well, let's see. Let's move. We good?
Well, I'm good. Mr. Coker, did you have anything else, like lottery numbers or something, or you wanted to give us?
Come on up.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say that time is of the essence because the clock's ticking, as the state gave us 60 days on the 7th or whatever day it was. As that clock ticks down, we have to move fairly quickly in order to make things happen. And all of that needs to be done for the good of the citizens so that the ambulances can respond from day one and respond the way that they're supposed to. We're preparing now. We've been preparing. My staff has been preparing. We will be ready, but we need some guidance from you in order to do that.
And not clear on, I know we formed a committee, but as far as the first date that you're going to meet and where you're going to meet and all that kind of stuff, you're going to get that out. Who did we elect the administrator?
Administrator Dowse.
Okay, so you'll get that out to everybody and. Okay.
Yes. My office is already working on scheduling, and so I'll be meeting with Mr. Coker.
Coke with an R on the end. Coke with an R on the end.
I'll be meeting with Mr. Coker immediately following this meeting.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coker.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. Don't leave. Commissioner from the 8th.
Receives information.
All right. Well, receive as information. Okay. Voting.
That motion carries with Mr. Mason out.
All righty, we've got one more item. Presentation is Mrs. Carrie Duco. Hey. All right. I'm getting ready to tell her to go ahead and get started. Yeah, I'm waiting on she's giving us a presentation. Hold on. Cats. All right, we're going to go ahead and start the presentation. I believe this is on best friends and cats. Where's Commissioner Bobby Williams? He went. Okay, I thought he left to go feed his cats. All right, we're going to go ahead and start this presentation. Excuse me? Okay, go ahead with your name. She's got to turn her microphone on.
Can you hear me? Okay, my name is Carrie Ducote, and I'm with Best Friends Animal Society. Thank you, Commissioner Garrett, for inviting me to be here today to talk to you guys about cats. I've been working with shelters in Georgia for about 15 years. Work for Best Friends Animal Society. We're a national animal welfare nonprofit, and we work with shelters across the country to decrease the number of dogs and cats that they have to euthanize. The situation in Augusta Animal Services, I've been working with shelters in Georgia for a long time. Currently, across the state, most cats that end up at shelters make it out alive, but that's not the case at Augusta Animal Services. Currently, cats are more likely to leave dead than alive if they enter Augusta Animal Services. Right now, like I said, I've been working with shelters in Georgia for a long time. 10% of all of the animals in the state of Georgia that are killed in shelters are killed at Augusta. There are more animals to save at Augusta Animal Services than any other shelter in the state of Georgia, and nationally, Augusta Animal Services ranks number 32 in terms of the most animals to save. So when we look at the data from Augusta Animal Services, we know that the majority of the animals that are being killed there are these free-roaming cats, these outdoor cats. We call them community cats. The truth is that there's just too many of them. They're really good at making more cats. You guys probably have seen them in your neighborhoods. You've probably heard about them already from more than just me. They're having babies, they're getting injured, they're getting run over, they're causing issues. So currently the way that Augusta Animal Services handles these free-roaming outdoor cats, these community cats, is by picking them up and bringing them to the shelter for euthanasia. They've been doing that for as long as Augusta Animal Services has been an entity, and we haven't seen this method of handling free-roaming cats really be effective for them. Most animal shelters nowadays are adopting what we call community cat programming to handle these outdoor cats. Instead of picking them up and euthanizing them, they're choosing to sterilize and vaccinate and ear tip them and return them back to where they've already been living. We understand that might sound a little bit crazy, but what we find is that they maintain the community where they live. They are not able to have any more babies, and over time we see the population stabilize, versus when we're just removing the cats and either euthanizing them or finding a new home for them or whatever. The cats that are there are so good at making more cats that it's just really ineffective if we're talking about reducing complaints and reducing the population of cats in the community to actually remove them from the community. I know that as public servants, you guys are probably wondering about the fiscal responsibility involved in adopting a community cat program versus what's been happening now. But again and again and again with shelters, we see that sterilizing, vaccinating, and returning the cats is less expensive than picking them up, housing them for the stray hold, euthanizing and disposing of them, which is what's happening now. And again, that's happening in the number of thousands of cats a year that are having that treatment at Augusta Animal Services. Additionally, we do know that these cats cause very real issues for people, and we don't want to be negligent of that. But we work with the community to make sure that whatever sort of issues people are experiencing with the cats in their community are resolved in sort of creative ways, and we find these ways to be really effective outside of actually removing the cats. All over the state of Georgia and all over South Carolina, anywhere that you see the orange is a county that's adopted community cat programming. These are counties that are not picking up and euthanizing outdoor cats. The gray X's on here also don't have animal services. As you guys know, Augusta's kind of isolated, surrounded by a lot of rural counties, and a lot of them don't have animal services, so I wanted to put that on there as well. I just talked to the director of the Aiken County Animal Shelter last week, and they don't have enough cats available for adoption there. They've been doing community cat programming there for so long that they're really struggling to meet the adoption demand there, because these programs are so effective at really reducing the number of cats in the community. I wanted to talk for a minute about Horry County, South Carolina, which is the county that I've worked with for years to implement this programming. You can see this sort of dark orange line is their intake over time. You can see it really plummets after introducing this program. And the lighter orange line is the number of cats that are being killed at the shelter. And then laid on top of that is the Augusta Animal Services data. So the darker gray is Augusta Animal Services. You can see that their intake is increasing and that the number of cats killed there is increasing. So although we might think that removing and euthanizing the cats is effective at reducing their population in the community, if it was going to work, it would have worked by now. We hear again and again that people don't want the cats there. So we did a survey in Richmond County. We checked with the residents. Turns out most people do want the cats there. They don't mind the cats being there. And their biggest concern is overpopulation. So obviously we want to address that by sterilizing the cats and keeping them from having kittens. So I know that you got my handout there, which has a quick summary, and I want to make it very clear that Best Friends has a lot of experience starting these programs in shelters all over the United States. I live here in Georgia, and that Best Friends is going to fund the initial year of programming to provide the sterilizations. We've committed a $50,000 grant to be able to make sure that any outdoor cat in Augusta is able to get sterilized at no cost to whoever's feeding them. And then we also want to make sure that we're supporting the shelter on implementing these programs. But for us to be able to do that fully, we would have to have an ordinance change to allow for free-roaming cats to be in the community. Right now, free-roaming cats are not allowed to be in the community. The ordinances say that they have to be impounded. Thank you again, Commissioner Garrett, for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's see who we got. I'm going to ask you a question real quick. Okay, since I chair public safety and animal services, I believe falls under this. Anyway, in your opinion, and I'm just going to shoot straight, is Augusta's animal shelter more of a put them down, euthanize, kill, or more saving animals? What have you picked up with working with Augusta shelter?
I know that there's been leadership changes over the years, and we've worked really closely with the new director, Mr. Hill, and he has a really strong desire to save as many animals as he can. And he doesn't, nobody enjoys euthanizing animals. It's just a really tough situation when he feels like he has no other option for these cats right now than to euthanize them.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let one of my colleagues speak now. I'm going to go to District 5 Commissioner.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to hear what Mr. Hill has to say about this program.
All right.
Why are you going a long way?
Trying to get away from you.
He probably is.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hill.
Hey, how you doing?
Good afternoon.
What you got? Go ahead. What do you think about the program?
Well, I think theoretically, I think it's a great idea. Practically, I don't know if it's something that we could do right away. I think, like when I speak about it, to you before, and other organizations. I think we need to crawl before we walk. I know, and I don't know with the grant that you're talking about providing, that probably will be a great assistance. But I know, right now there's a shortage of veterinarians. So being able to, spay and neuter every cat, that we come across is going to be something that's going to be very difficult at the moment. But I mean, I think it's, like I say, I think it's a good idea theoretically. Just the practicality of it is something that we would have to actually, talk through and discuss. There's a lot of pros and cons on both sides of the argument, and so, I'm not a closed thinking person, but I just think we need to be practical about it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, I'm going to go to District 8 Commissioner Garrett.
I got one more question.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks.
Excuse me.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
My name?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Carrie Ducote. It should be listed on the bottom of the handout that you have.
Okay. So what's the easiest way to implement this program? You go out and just catch them, or what?
So we would work with the shelter and the staff there and provide them with the training that they need to be able to pivot from what they're doing now, the way that they're responding to complaints about community cats, to what we would want them to do, which is if somebody calls and says, I've been feeding these cats, or my neighbor is feeding these cats, then we provide them with the resources that they need, provide them with whatever sort of intel they need to be able to change the cat's behavior so that they're not causing a nuisance anymore, and then, yes, get them trapped and get them into surgery, get them sterilized, and get them back.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead with District 8 Commissioner Garrett. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I did want to add one thing. So to our credit, our ordinance actually does have a policy right now where we're not required to go out and pick up cats unless there's a complaint. We don't just go out and look for cats. If an officer's outside and they see a cat roaming by, we don't automatically pick them up like we would a dog or cats. We don't approach like that.
Okay, I've got a question for you real quick. A while back, I believe you had hired a veterinarian.
Yes.
Do we have one on staff now?
We do not. We do not. She resigned. She works with. She comes on a part-time basis, but we don't have a full-time right now. We are currently in the process of trying to hire one.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Speak to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, in that we've been working really closely with the Humane Society of Northeast Georgia, and we're working with them, if this program is approved, to actually buy them a mobile spay-neuter unit so that they could bring their veterinarians down and do the surgeries. Since we have talked about this for years, the veterinary shortage here in Augusta is a huge challenge.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and let Commissioner Garrett speak. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Carrie, I appreciate you coming. We were actually introduced through a lobbyist in Atlanta, so it was kind of an odd connection. But so I know that, Mr. Hill, you talked about that current policy or the ordinance states a certain thing. So I think that part of what this would take would be an ordinance change. Is that correct?
Well, from what she's saying, yes, it would definitely take an ordinance change.
Okay. So if we were to take action on this, Madam Attorney, what would the next steps need to be from this committee? If we wanted to adopt this policy and move forward with trying to implement this, or at least start the next steps forward.
Yes, sir. If the commission wanted to move forward with it, it will authorize the director to bring back an ordinance consistent with the program. It will go to the next meeting to the full commission, and after that, he will have approval then to get with the attorney to go over and propose a new ordinance.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So you mentioned that the Augusta area has a low number of veterinarians. Is there a reason why? I mean, or is that traditionally something that you see around the state?
I think that's probably nationwide. It's nationwide right now.
So we should be encouraging our kids to become veterinarians?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a national vet shortage.
Really?
There's just not enough veterinarians coming out of school. And the ones that are coming out, they want to go to small animal private practice. They don't necessarily want to work at a high-volume spay neuter clinic. They don't necessarily want to work at a high-volume spay neuter clinic.
I could understand that too, but there's a pretty good livelihood that could be made there. I'd like to make a motion that we take the next steps and implement this policy that Carrie and Best Friends Animal Society has presented and tasked the director with steps to move forward.
Got a motion, and first we need a second. I can second it. Second, let's vote. Commissioner Williams?
What's the no button? The red one, Ms. Bonner? I just don't know yet. I just don't know yet.
And you feed all those cats on that porch in the afternoons?
That motion
Okay.
fails 2-1 with Mr. Bobby Williams voting no, Mr. Mason out.
Carrie, I appreciate you coming, and we'll keep working on this.
Thank you. That concludes public safety. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to call administrative service to order. Do we have any?
No, ma'am, no addendums.
Okay. If it's okay with my committee, I would like to.
Madam Chair, I think the administrator is trying to get your attention.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Bonner. Commissioner Scott, I would like for number 5, receive as information, a presentation from Destination Augusta, be moved to full commission next week.
Without action. Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to consent 1, 2, 3, 4.
So moved.
Second.
Are we going to consent 5 to have this moved to? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's Mr. Franham and
Johnson.
Johnson. Thank you.
Voting.
It's unanimous.
Madam Clerk, I close administrative service to a close.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to call engineering services to order. Madam Clerk, are there any additions or deletions?
No, ma'am. Do you have a quorum? Let's see.
Okay.
Mr. Garrett, Mr. Mason's out. You need a quorum. Mr. Garrett?
We don't have, he was just here. Right now, I guess we don't have a quorum. Well, his bag's still here, so he must be in the back. Can I go? All right, thank you. Administrative desk, do you got a question real quick?
Commissioner McKnight, we need to update the motion to number 2. It should read to receive as information the emergency purchase order and as the rest is stated, but it needs to be updated to receive as information.
All righty. As soon as we get Commissioner Garrett in here, we'll vote. There you go. Okay, if there aren't any questions, I'd like to consent items 1 through 3. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Oh, Okay, real quick, let me go to Commissioner Guilfoyle, District 10. Go
Y'all,
ahead.
y'all fixing to see something very quick. Watch the finance chairman go to work right now.
Okay. Well, that concludes engineering. We'll go ahead to, finance. Let's go.
I tell you what, you're gonna hate me in a couple months. You better enjoy these short agendas. But no, that's funny, Commissioner Guilfoyle. We're going to call Finance Committee to order. There's a lot on the agenda, so let's take our time here. There's one item on the agenda. Ms. Bonner, are there any additions or deletions? There are no addendums. All right, well, is there a motion to consent item number 1?
So move.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second and a third. Voting, Ms. Bonner. Enjoy it while we can.
It's unanimous.
With that, finance is adjourned.